Of the stock market just like the pros. Well, thanks to Phil Grande and philsgang.com, you can. philsgang.com offers comprehensive, up-to-date market information designed to help you understand and anticipate market behavior. With philsgang.com, you'll build your investing confidence even through down cycles and periods of uncertainty. Go to philsgang.com. philsgang.com today. 877-600-GANG. 877-600-4264.
Want good investing advice from someone you can trust? Listen to Phil Grande.
With what's going on today in the economy, especially in the stock market, it gets really complicated, but doesn't have to be. My job is to make it simple, to get through the fog. And I think I do that, and I think I do a pretty good job of that, especially why you should be buying a stock, or why you should be in the market, or not in the market, or shorting.
Invest wisely with the knowledge of Phil Grande at philsgang.com. When you listen to the advice of Phil Grande at philsgang.com, you'll find investing in the stock market makes sense with the right guidance.
People keep saying to me, boy, things are hard, things are tough. Boy, the market's really screwed up. And I don't agree with them. For us here at Phil's Gang, we make it so it's simple. It doesn't matter if the market's bad or good. We consistently do well because we make it simple. And just like for my listeners on the radio or on the internet or my podcast, we make it simple. We try to break it down so you really understand why the market is going up, or why there's continued inflation, or why the bank rates are going up. So you understand, especially yields. The most important thing to understand how yields work. Just what we do. We work hard at it.
Trusted advice, easy to understand strategies that will make you a better investor. Get all the details at philsgang.com. That's philsgang.com. Why are investors listening to Phil Grande at philsgang.com?
You know why people listen to my show? Because I make it simple. When you talk about the stock market, they make it so complicated. I make it easy to understand. For the average investor, the Main Street investor, most of the time, these guys, like they're talking to each other. We talk directly to you and we listen to you.
Invest better with the sound advice of Phil Grande at philsgang.com. Phil Grande has successfully taught tens of thousands of investors how to navigate the market with confidence.
Hi, I'm Phil Grande at philsgang.com. That's right, philsgang.com. Join my gang for 10 days. It's free. If anything, during that 10-day period, you're going to learn how the market really works. You're going to find information that you never had before. You're going to walk away and go, I didn't know that. So join my gang for 10 days free, philsgang.com, and you're also going to learn how to make money when the market goes down. It's kind of silly just sitting there when the market going down, hoping. Why hope when you can sell short and make money? Either way, you make money when the market goes up, you make money when the market goes down. That's the benefit of Phil's Gang. You make money.
Become a Phil's Gang member and receive the training, advice, and software that will take your investing to the next level.
philsgang.com. Sign up free for 10 days.
The stocks discussed on Phil's Gang are not in any way a recommendation or solicitation to buy, sell, or hold. If considering acting on information presented, we first recommend you seek out a competent, licensed professional for advice. Get ready for the radio show that tells you what Wall Street doesn't want you to know.
Oh, I'm a money magnet. Money's coming to me. Money sets me free. I'm a money magnet. Money's coming to me.
It's your daily dose of how to manage your money. And now it's time for Phil's Gang on the Off the Wall Street Radio Network. With your host, Phil Grande.
You just gotta buy stocks anytime they come down.
Wrong.
Well, that's smart. Buy stocks anytime they come down. Hi, I'm Phil Grande of Phil's Gang. Welcome to my podcast and radio show every Friday at this time where you get the truth. Now that is stupid. Just buy when they come down. That's not how the market works. And also, it's interesting today, everybody was surprised we came out with the job numbers. and the job numbers came in weak, and everybody was expecting for the yields to go down. And normally that's how it works. If your job numbers are weak, yields go down. If your job numbers are hot, yields go up, interest rates go up. So we had a weak job number and interest rates went up. Everybody's going, what's going on? Well, nothing. Look, if you have a hot jobs number or you have a hot wage number, either one, yields are going to go up. So that's why yields are up. But you know, this thing with the Federal Reserve, I hope that Trump, about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, he was here in Sarasota, and I had a conversation with him because he put me in his book. That's right, I'm in his book, and you know, I got to know him pretty well. And then obviously when he became president in 2017, we really lost track because I couldn't. It's hard to get a hold of the president. But one thing he agreed with me about was you got to get rid of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve does not help anybody except Wall Street. And the Federal Reserve is really, I mean, it's done a lot of destruction. And the biggest destruction it's done, okay, is inflation. So today they come out and tell us that jobs are weak. I don't care what they say about jobs. I don't believe any of their numbers to begin with. The only thing when I look for the truth, I look at the Russell 2000, symbol IWM. That's where the truth lies. And IWM right now, if you take a look at the S&P and you take a look at the Qs, we have not rallied beyond December. We haven't had a breakout that would hold. But if you look at IWM, the most important indicator, compared to the other two are going sideways. IWM is going down. And that's the indicator you want to look at. That's the one that tells the truth, just like the bond market tells the truth. When yields are going up, market's in trouble. Yields are going down, interest rates are down, helps the markets. But going back to this, he comes out, and another reason why we have yields going up today is because you remember what he said on January 15th? He said, inflation is nearing my 2% target. And he says that every time he raises rates to fight inflation, even though it's not the truth. That's another reason you got to get rid of this thing called the Federal Reserve, which is not federal. It has no reserves. It's just a bold-faced bunch of lies. So on January 15th, he said, hey, look, we're nearing our we're our 2% target, rather. And so therefore, I'm going to resume my rate cuts at 25 basis points throughout 2025. Then he turns around and he makes another change, right? So this week he says, well, we're going to pause. We're going to pause the rate cut. So how do you go from, wow, this is good. Look, we're getting near my 2% rate cut. Man, I'm going to continue hitting those rate cuts at 25 basis points all through 2025. So wait a minute, pause. What are you, nuts? How do you go to a pause? So he says, I want to pause these rate cuts. So that's the problem with the Federal Reserve. They're all over the place. But the one thing they've been consistent about, Powell, is every time they raised rates, they would put in the minutes, the FOMC minutes of the meeting, the language that the 2% inflation has made a great progress because we raised rates. Great progress toward my 2% inflation. However, then he'd whisper, he got that from Biden, and he'd whisper and say, yeah, but inflation, however, inflation remains somewhat elevated. Does this all the time. Change. All he does is keep changing. But the one thing he doesn't change is the wording. But he did this time. He crossed out this time the wording that inflation has made a great progress towards my 2% inflation rate, but all that's in here now in the minutes, inflation remains somewhat elevated, which means he can't cut rates. Now, if he goes and cuts rates, he's going to confuse everybody again. But let's take a look at what is this thing, the Federal Reserve, and why you got to get rid of it. First of all, the Federal Reserve needs to be abolished because it's too political. It's too political, especially during the election. Anytime during the election, he will move things around to make it look better for whoever's in the White House. He did that. How many times did he do that? In the last 2 years, Bernstein, his right-hand man, they even lied about wages. Remember, about jobs. Remember 813,000 jobs they didn't have from, they said they created 813,000 jobs from March 2023 to March 2024 was a lie? What are you, nuts? So, remember, let's go back to 1916 when I was born. No, let's go back to 1916. Since that date, when they put the Fed together, that became the arbiter of inflation, especially when you go fast forward to 2008. Now, the Federal Reserve since 1916 has done nothing well. All it's done is create massive inflation. Because what does the Fed do? And whoever's in charge of the Fed, Powell, we had Bernanke before that, we had Janet Yellen before that, all they do is call up the Treasury Department and say, hey, print me a bunch of money because I'm going to go and buy treasuries. I need to buy treasuries. Why does he need to buy treasuries? Because remember, the Fed rate follows the Treasury. So in other words, when they want to move the economy and stimulate the economy, they want to be able to loan money to public corporations near zero. But that doesn't do any good unless they get the 10-year Treasury yield to come down. I mean, they can move their own rate down anyway, anytime they want. Just move it. They're in charge of their own rate. But what the Fed knows is they really follow the 10-year Treasury yield, because you really got to get that 10-year Treasury yield down to justify pushing down your Fed rate. So what do? Well, remember, they keep on saying, wow, look at this, things are getting better. So they go, call the Treasury Department, the Treasury Department prints all this crap, all the bonds, and then what do? They print all this money, and then they go and they buy, the Federal Reserve goes buys the 10-year Treasury yields to drive those down, then the Fed can drive their rates down, and this is massive inflation. Massive inflation. Since 2016. Remember, Volcker was the only hero because he had the guts to fix this, to increase rates from 1979 to 1981, 20%. Because they were doing that back then. Again, call Treasury, print me a bunch of money. I got to buy treasuries so I can get the 10-year yield down. So that will then I can justify pushing my rate that I sell to the banks at zero. And they can buy their own stocks, stock buybacks. But you gotta. So this whole thing, the Federal Reserve, is a joke. The Federal Reserve. Remember, if you go back to 1914. You had Rockefeller, Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, the actual Mr. J.P. Morgan. They pretty much owned Congress. And what they wanted was to make sure that their banks would not fail. That's what they were worried about, that their banks would not fail. Now, they tried this several times, but the timing was better. The timing was much better, okay, in 1914. Because you had senators, you had people in Congress that you could pay off, you could grease. So when the government, and here's what they wanted, the banks, the Rockefeller, Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, cartel, they always using their own money to do deals. Well, they didn't want that. They wanted the government to take the risk, to replace their money. I want government to come in and replace my money. Let them take the risk. I'll take the profit. And then let's have a guaranteed bailout. If my bank goes down, I want to be bailed out. Well, you would have had to have some heavy grease with these senators to get that through, and they did. So the taxpayers takes all the risk. All the risk. You and I take the risk, Main Street. So example, 1916, the Federal Reserve, right? Now, they approved the Federal Reserve. Now, J.P. Morgan family, Carnegie family, Rockefeller family, they didn't have to worry anymore. They were set because they didn't have to use their own money, put their money at risk doing deals. The government would put their money in. and they would get the profits. So the Federal Reserve said what they would never do before. Remember, let me put it this way. Rockefeller, Carnegie, and J.P. Morgan did something they would never do before themselves because they had the risk. They always wanted to have farm lending. They wanted to lend to farmers. But the cartel, Rockefeller, Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, that family, they didn't want to take the risk because they knew farmers were a bad risk. But boy, as soon as the Federal Reserve was established in 1916, and now they're not taking the risk, and they get bailed out as their banks go down, and say, hey, let's offer farmers these programs. And they started to lend money to all these farmers who were they could not get approved. And if they went to a Rockefeller Bank, Carnegie Bank, J.P. Morgan Bank, they would not be able to get approved. Now they're getting approved. And who's stamping the approved? Rockefeller Bank, Carnegie Bank, and Morgan Bank. They're approved. Even if the guy's dead, approved. This is how terrible this Federal Reserve is. So that's what they did. The whole idea now, the Carnegie, Rockefeller, Morgan families were set. If their banks went down, they get a check from the government, bail them out. It was beautiful. 1920. Now remember what the deal was in 1916. They said to America, to the senators, tell the folks, tell Americans, this is good for them because now banks will never fail. They can put money in banks and they'll never fail. That's why we need to do this. And of course, they got their cash under the table and they finally got it going through. 1920, what happened? We had a big bust. A big bust in 1920. You know those 12 government-sponsored farmer banks? They had these 12 government-sponsored cooperative federal land banks. They went bust. They had 12 of them. They're lending like crazy. But Rockefeller, Carnegie, Morgan family, they're fine. They got a check. They're fine. They didn't have to worry. And oh, by the way, when these things worked, they also got the profit. But they never took the risk. So the government, the taxpayer, who didn't get anything out of it, got screwed, and they lost money on this deal. But not these families. In fact, instead of taking these 12 programs, which are really 12 banks, instead of shutting them down, which they should have done, what do they always do? Instead of shutting down, they rolled them into what is now called the Farm Credit Bureau. Can you imagine? They should have shut it down, the Federal Reserve, but they didn't. These are failures. And the banking cartel got a big check. They didn't take any risk. So now they got the Federal Credit Bureau. So they rolled these terrible banks, they're losing money, lending to farmers, into a new Farm Credit Bureau. This is what's going on. So think about it. This one program, the Farm Credit Bureau system, morphed into first 4 programs and 4 banks. They had the Patriotic Bank, then they called another one the creation of the Fedwire Bank, and then the Edge Bank, and Millstone for Women Bank. So these are programs, but they're banks. So it's Patriotic Bank, creation of Fedwire, Banking on the Edge, Millstone for Women. These 4 programs. Well, guess what? These 4 programs and these 4 banks morphed into 30,000 new banks, which the cartel, the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, and the Morgan control. This is what this thing was formed for. Isn't this insane? And nothing's changed up to today. You got to get rid of the Federal Reserve. More when I get back, and we'll look at some stocks.
Want more information on this show? Go to philsgang.com or give them a call at 877-600-GANG.
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're fighting against childhood cancer every day. At the heart of this battle are our donors.
Most of us want to make some type of difference in the lives of others. St. Jude does miraculous work.
The fact that no one has to pay, it's a place where everyone is treated as an equal.
Everybody is welcome here, and it doesn't matter your religion or what part of the world you're from, all that is taken away. It just gives you some hope
It's just a nice feeling to put your energy into something that really does genuinely make a difference in a child's life.
There's just no greater gift. If we have the ability to help, then we have a responsibility to help.
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Find out how you can help at stjude.org.
What does it take to be a successful investor in the stock market? Developing your skills and learning from an expert like Phil Grande and philsgang.com.
It doesn't have to be hard or complicated to learn how to invest in stocks properly. It's like anything else. You're going to golf, you're going to learn how to play tennis, ski. You need to be with someone. Learn off of them, one-on-one. Now that can be really expensive, cost thousands of dollars. But I have a program that you can join for 10 days free.
Go to philsgang.com and sign up for a free 10-day trial. Phil Grande has developed tools to teach you how to invest in stocks properly. Not only when to buy stocks, but how to sell stocks short.
85% of people in the market lose money. Get out of that group by just joining Phil's gang.
Now you can learn to invest like a pro with a pro. Phil Grande. Take advantage of this special offer for a free 10-day trial at philsgang.com.
Try it. 10 days free.
That's philsgang.com.
philsgang.com.
Welcome back. Learn, invest, and make profits with Phil Grande. Simply go to philsgang.com. Now, here's Phil.
By the end of 2025, inflation is actually going to be somewhat lower, closer to 2%, maybe 2.5% or so, down from 2.8% now.
You sound insane. Do you realize that?
He is insane. He is insane. Okay. Inflation's going to be high because they do nothing to fight inflation. Because remember, who controls the Federal Reserve? Not the top 1% everybody talks about. They're nobodies. It's the top 1/100 of 1%. They control everything in this country. Everything. I can't think of the comedian. Who was it? George Carlin. He had a great thing about that. How they control the banks. They control everything. The judges. They control the politicians. They control everybody. They control the Federal Reserve. They want inflation. Don't ever buy into it. They're trying to get inflation down. So, going back to, let's think what we morphed into. We morphed into 30,000 banks between 1916 and 1930. And we were sold that if we do this, Federal Reserve, guess what? The banks would never go broke. But guess what? We had the biggest bank failure in history in 1930. What a bunch of lies. So remember, Main Street was guaranteed by Congress. Hey, we got to pass this because you're going to be fine. You can put your money in banks and be safe. None of that was true. So again, the taxpayer takes the hit. Not the Rockefellers, not the Carnegies, not the Morgan family. They're cool. They're cool. And as time went on, these banks were sold and so forth, and that's where we are today. But fast forward to 1985, the Farm Credit System, remember all those failed banks and everything? They rolled that into Farm Credit System. Well, guess what? 1985, the Farm Credit System lost $2.7 billion, $3 billion. And then they come out and they lie. The Federal Reserve lies. They always lie, and they said, oh, don't worry about this because we're just going to sell bonds. We're just going to sell debt to the people. We're not asking for help from the government. Oh, really? Well, guess what? The Farm Credit System, which is still alive today, we just gave them $4 billion. So since 1985, we, the taxpayers, guess what they're doing? Through the Federal Reserve, they're providing billions and billions of federally guaranteed bailouts to the Farm Credit System. We, the taxpayer, getting up the butt again. But nobody tells the truth. So there is nothing you can say about the Federal Reserve is good for Main Street. It's only good for Wall Street. And I hope to God that President Trump, and when I was in Sarasota here when I had a conversation with him, and I also had another conversation. I was really thrilled because he invited me. I had to go to New York on business, and he invited me to his office, and I went over to his. Unbelievable, just the place was incredible. a machine. Unbelievable. That was thrilling. So, anyways, the Federal Reserve has nothing but failures. Nothing but failures. So, as I said, if they don't get rid of this Federal Reserve, things will get worse, inflation will get worse. And the only people that made out, as I said, in the very beginning of all this, was the J.P. Morgan and all the wealthy individual bank owners who did it for one reason, to protect themselves and their family. And that's going on even today. The Getty family owns a lot of banks, and they're protected. So what do we do when we're trading? Don't make decisions on rates going up, rates going down, because every time they change and they go another direction. First they're going to do rate cuts, then they're not going to do rate cuts, then they're going to do two. Now decide to do one. If you try to trade like that, you'll go broke. What you look at is not noise. Get rid of the noise. Don't look at noise. Don't listen to noise. Watch money. And I don't want to hear, and they're starting that again. This money is on the sidelines. Oh, when I hear that, I get so grumpy. Listen to this.
There's a tremendous amount of cash on the sidelines, so really any dip should be used as a buying opportunity.
My detector test determined that was a lie.
Money doesn't go to the sideline. No company puts money on the sideline. If they have $1 million, they're going to go buy, let's say, $700,000 worth of stocks. The rest of the money they put aside in case there's a problem with their stock, in case the stock starts going down. Okay, that's why they do that. A certain percentage of money they leave on the sideline as a lever, okay, to help their stocks if they go down. It's not sitting there to put into the market as, oh, I think I'm just going to buy some extra stocks. It doesn't work that way. So again, gold. Let's talk about gold. Now, yesterday, and this is what I don't like about the Federal Reserve. Yesterday they come out, and all of a sudden the banks start taking off. Now, we've been in the banks. We've done terrific with J.P. Morgan. You can see it on my chart here. We did terrific with J.P. Morgan. We did different with Wells Fargo, Citi, Goldman Sachs. But the two we really did well with is J.P. Morgan and Wells Fargo. And some of my members own Citi and Goldman Sachs. But I've been focusing on J.P. Morgan, Wells Fargo, doing terrific. But they come out yesterday because I all of a sudden I knew something was going to happen. They're going to start taking profits or something. So they come out yesterday and they make an announcement yesterday that the banks, guess what? The stress test. Yeah, this is the Federal Reserve again. Oh, did you hear this? Trump administration, they're going to make the stress test easy. They're going to make it real easy now, the stress test. The stress test has always been stupid. It's always been easy. It's always been a lie. Oh, but the stress test is going to be much easier now. Oh, and by the way, he's going to cut regulations, banking regulations. So he's going to make the stress test easy, cut banking regulations. And one other thing he was going to do, forgot what it was. The amount of money they have to keep in reserve at the banks, he's going to cut that. So instead of, if you have to keep $10 million in the bank, you only have to keep $2 million in the bank. So all of a sudden the bank stocks rally. And this is what really gets me. So you know that people who don't know what they're doing, they see banks are going up, they're not in, and they jump right in and they chase them. What I tell my members is anytime you get an announcement like that and you see the banks go up and we're in them, sell into them. Sell into them. Don't get out, but take a lot of your profits. Because usually those kind of announcements, they'll turn around and reverse. Okay, the stock action that day will reverse. As a matter of fact, it did today on Wells Fargo. The stock yesterday went to a high of 81.06, and today it was at a low of of about $79. So anytime you get these kind of announcements, you know, don't make emotional moves. So the banks started to go up on that noise. So someone said, hey, we need to get the banks to go up because here's what's going on. All the money is going into gold. So everybody who's in tech stocks, they're taking their money out of tech stocks and they're putting their money in gold. We got to move that money. Got to get people to move their traders, move their money into banks. So why don't we start this rumor, but we'll make it a fact, okay, that the administration, now remember, In 2017, 2018, the bank went up, the market went up 30%. All on the same kind of nonsense. The Federal Reserve making announcements. Oh, he's going to cut taxes. Oh, he's going to cut taxes. And every time the market comes down a little bit, announcement. TV. TV, they have the alerts. What do they call them? They flash on your TV screen every 2 minutes. A news alert. Everything's a news alert. So, same thing here. Everything was an alert that the banks were just going to keep going higher. Well, today the banks went up. Now, we've been in JP Morgan since, I think, going back to, gotta have to look, I think since October, I think. And then we got out for a while, and then we got back in, I think, in January. Right? Okay. And our Wells Fargo, all doing good. So again, you want to follow, where is the money going? And if you follow and start to learn to trust the bond market, and you trust IWM, see, remember, the small mid-cap businesses, the big institutional money that drive the stock market, they look to the Russell 2000, symbol IWM. Here, I'll put it up for you, symbol IWM. They look at IWM to make decisions if they're going to put, because the institutions all they want to know is, what is the health of the economy? What's the financial health of the economy? You think you're going to get that from Kramer in the morning, listen to him? Or you think you're going to get from any other of those characters on CNBC in the morning? Or the geniuses on Fox Business? No, you don't get the truth from them. They're told what to tell you. You get the truth from your small mid-cap stocks. Now, if you look at IWM right now, it just broke the 50-day moving average. Broke the 50-day. Now, if you go back and look at the spiders, okay, the spiders, again, are in trouble, right? The spiders are in trouble. Because why? Because they're not breaking out. And as I said, December 4th, 5th was the first time they started to break out and then failed. And then it dropped all the way back down to about 576, and that was in January 13th. Then they came out on January 15th with that big BS lie that drove the market up 700, and the market kept going up on the big lie. Oh, the last time we raised rates, inflation is now nearing our 2% target. Oh, boy, remember, this was the night that the president, Biden, was going to make his farewell speech. So tell me you don't think this was a setup. So then they said, oh, look at this, inflation is down. Oh, look at this, yields are dropping. Oh, my God. And the market went up 700 points. Then 15 days later, he says, I failed. We got to put a pause on it. So again, you got to stop listening to what they tell you with the Fed. Too many people are making decisions based on the Fed. Don't make your decisions based on the Fed. You'll lose money. Make your decision following the money. Following the price. Because at the end of the day, that's what trading's all about, is where is the damn money going? And you don't have to follow 30 stocks. Every professional will tell you they don't follow more than 5-6 stocks, and usually the same six stocks throughout the year. Because they sit back, they're professionals, and they wait for buy signals, and they wait for buy patterns, and they wait for sell patterns. In fact, if you look, I'll put my chart up, I'll just show you some of the sell patterns I have. I only have a handful that I really buy on and sell on. Okay, can they see this? Okay, well, you can see right here, this is the stock market, the S&P right here. You see all these red dots? That means this market has been uptrending. See it uptrending? But has not been able to hold a support line. And it's below its trend line. Okay, that's bad news. But when I buy stocks, I don't listen to anything. What I look at, if I got on I have my Pro 1, Pro 2 chart. If I have a high on my Pro 1, a low stochastic on my Pro 2, that's a buy signal. And I wait till it turns green to confirm it. And it did. Here's another pattern I use. When I have on my Pro 1, Pro 2, I put them side by side. And on my Pro 1, when the stochastic's on the bottom and Pro 2, the stochastic's on the top, it's telling me when it's low, when the stochastic is low, I have a low and a high, that means the stock's going to die. And almost every time the stock dies. That's a wonderful pattern. Those two patterns help us big time. Then I have another pattern I like and I use a lot. It's called the flag pattern. A flag pattern. Just when you think the stock is going to collapse, it breaks out and runs. We make a lot of money on this pattern. And there's one more pattern right here. Is the consolidation pattern. The buyers and sellers are fighting. And the longer they fight, the longer the consolidation is, the longer they fight, when finally everyone who said the market was going to go lower, now they got to go, oh my God, it's going higher. I got to cover my short position. You get these big breakouts. So that's 1, 2, 3. So that's 1, 2, 3, but 4 patterns. That's it. And then the last pattern I use is my Pro 2 color-coded chart I designed 25 years ago. Everybody says, oh, it's a gimmick. No, it isn't. If it didn't, how come over 200,000 people use this thing? They've been using this over 25 years. Over 200,000 people have used this. And it's really simple. When it's green, you buy, and when it's red, you sell, and it will turn yellow to warn you the color's changing. People think it's a gimmick. It's not. I should be on my yacht selling so many of these things. The beautiful thing about the Pro 2, you have one of the strongest buy signals ever right here. It's called the sweet spot. The color-coded chart will tell you where the sweet spot is. And that is where the most money is coming in at the shortest period of time, where you get the most movement. And it's right here. It's beautiful. And then the other one is the opposite. The most money is coming out of the market at the fastest amount of time, and that's when we're short. So there's like 4 basic patterns, and then I use my Pro 2 that's color-coded. It helps me. And I'd like you to join. Check it out. Free for 10 days. But stop listening to the Federal Reserve or you'll go broke. They're not on your side. See you on the chart.
You have been listening to Phil's Gang with your host, Phil Grande, on the Off the Wall Street Radio Network. Off the Wall Street Radio Network. Remember to visit Phil's website at philsgang.com. That's philsgang.com. Or call the office, 877-600-4264. That's 877-600-4264.